Our guest today is director, screenwriter, and producer Lillian T. Mehrel. She's here to talk about her new film, beautifully done, poignant, funny, serious, all that you would want in a terrific film, and that is called Honeyjoon. It's a light and dark comedy, focuses on June and her Persian-British mother, Lela, as they travel to the romantic Azores island to acknowledge and celebrate a grief anniversary with contrasting ways of coping. A quietly charismatic surfer takes them on a tour as we surf the waves of life, loss, and flirting. Just a wonderful film. Had a great time with it, and honored to have with us today the director, producer, and writer of this wonderful film, Lillian T. Mehrel. Lillian, welcome to Cinemaphile.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
There are so many parts, so many different approaches that you took to the filmmaking for this wonderful film, Honeyjoon, that really pull us into the story, pull us into the characters, why and how we got here, and finding a tone in which you can deal with grief and these difficult interactions, these difficult issues. I know that this film comes from a specific event in your family's life and how dealing with grief was particularly important to you and your mom. What inspired you to make Honeyjoon?
Yes, actually, jumping off what you just shared, the first inspiration, in a way, is actually this tonal balance you're talking about. Because what excites me about storytelling, I think, is riding that fine line of what feeling alive feels like to me, which is like that line between dark comedy and emotion and the poetry of cinema and turning all those together. That's what I do as a director. And so actually this film was inspired by a real trip to this island in the Azores and real grief that I live with. And I was there and it was so strikingly beautiful. And I thought to myself, this is a really perfect setting for what I love, that blend of comedy and emotion, because there's something in the contrast that's so funny about being in a beautiful place while you're grieving. It's just like it's just that's what it feels like, and it just I was struck by some of the like absurdities of like being surrounded by happy honeymooners, like the concept of that when you're this odd couple out, like a mother-daughter grieving. And all these places that contrast, lends itself to comedy for me. That was part of my inspiration. And then the other side, like we talk about with this, duality of comedy and emotion, the other side of my inspiration was the real feelings that I was grappling with in life of after you lose someone you love, can life still be beautiful?
Yeah.
And how? Like, how do you live with this? And I think that combination of what I love to do as a storyteller and what I was grappling with came together in this like electric chemical combustion to make Honeyjoon.
The very, very first scene in the film, there's a stark contrast between the, I'll call it the expectations of this vacation that June and Lela have. And without giving anything away, there is something that you set which cinematically is beautiful. I mean, for most people, we sit down, we're ready to take the trip. And I love it when directors are able to kind of drop these, I don't, hints is not exactly the right word, but expectations for these two different characters. And right away, there's a sense of intimacy just in that moment, in that first minute or so of the film that you've taken us into. You've taken us over that threshold already. Let's talk a little bit about that cinematically in terms of what that's about for you.
Absolutely. Well, like you say, it does sort of start with a bang, but I think it connects to what we were just talking about with
Yeah.
duality. Duality is all over this film. The themes of surfing the light and dark waves of life and the yin yang, you could see it in the visuals of the film, the themes of the film, the characters. So in that first, opening of the film, you see light and dark. You see the balance of light and dark thematically in what the character is doing and in the visuals. basically we start with each character, one of them on sort of the light side of the yin yang and the other in the dark. And you can see it, throughout the film, and even in their clothes, but then they switch places and they cross over. And even the yin yang has a little of each other underneath. And so I think ultimately all of that leads to this feeling at the end, this thing I kept thinking about actually when I was writing, which is feeling alive means feeling all of it. So a long time ago, I remember feeling that like the first scene can hold actually the whole spirit of your film. And as you see, it does.
It
It-
does.
it's about the dark, it's about the light, it's about pleasure, it's about running from grief, it's about living, it's about the contrast between them. It's all of that. So yeah, thank you for seeing that.
Well, and I would say this for most people listening to our conversation. If you take a step back from your life, your own life, and you kind of take an objective look at it, I'm sure most people would say there are these contrasted, there are these absurd parts of someone's life. These are the parts about love and death and those things. And day to day, I will call them minor affronts to your joy. Right. That's maybe not the exact right way to put
Oh,
it,
it's a
but
nice
that's what we
phrase.
deal with. That's what we deal with. We just don't recognize it because we become kind of used to it. And
Yeah.
I think that's what you kind of pulled the curtain, you've pulled us back into seeing that frame and with this film.
Thank you. I think something that cinema can do is, like you said, it sort of shows you things that you feel yourself,
Yeah.
and it gives you space to feel them, permission even,
Permission.
letting you know you're not alone in feeling them.
Yeah.
I think that was something I wanted to do with both of these characters. I'm not trying to say there's a right way to cope with grief in life, but no matter, which one you connect to the most, like it's all okay. It's all human. And I always say, like, I want to share the inside joke of being human, the things we all
Yeah.
understand and get. And like you said, maybe you don't even articulate it in your own life, but a film can take you through the journey sort of removed a little bit from yourself so that you can feel it. And people do have their own catharsis watching the film of laughter, of tears. And they come to me after, like I've gotten to show it to hundreds and hundreds of people now. And they always come to me and tell me about the ways that, they connected and what made them laugh and what made them cry. And it's so beautiful because it's always different. There's so many elements that people can connect to. And so it's like, I think what you just said about like, you don't always notice, but a film lets you take notice.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, that permission structure to say, and we're as humans, we are drawn to story ever
Yeah.
since we were able to come together as some kind of form of a community of who we are. We've told each other stories.
Yeah.
I think when you go to a theater, your expectations is to be told a story.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much a part of our makeup as human beings. And I want to get into the story because I really, other than kind of the introduction, Lela is a trained psychologist, and June is not.
No, it's not. Drop out medical student.
And by the way, June is played by Aiden Mayeri, just does a fantastic job of finding this character, hitting the comedy and the drama, being able to blend it all together in a fully formed character here. So shout out to Aiden Mayeri for her work as June. She can be funny without doing anything. She can be funny with a look on her face or the way that she moves. And on the other side of this cinematic equation, we see Amira Kazar as Lela, who does a fantastic job of not only as a standalone character with her own backstory and her own baggage, but also in the back and forth between her and Aiden Mayeri, playing June, just does a wonderful job of making this yin and yang work. And this back and forth begins with the check-in at the hotel. And again, the overarching thread in this film is the sense of loss, the sense of grief. And having with Lela just lost her husband and with June just lost her father.
Well, I mean, to speak to what you just noted, these incredible actors, the actress who plays June, Aiden Mayeri, I always say she's fluent in comedy and drama. She has, like what we were talking about, kind of about life and the duality, she gets both so deeply. And this is something that was very important to me with the kind of comedy. I'm trying to create comedy that feels like what you observe in real life, that just happens, those moments in life that just happen. I didn't want any of the actors to be trying to be funny. I just wanted them to be true to their characters. And by being true to their characters, they can be so funny in contrast to each other or in the very human ways that they're behaving that, we can all recognize and maybe, we wouldn't admit to thinking those things and then they're thinking it and we feel like, oh, it's not just us. And it's so embarrassing to be like seen so clearly. The character of Lela, played by Amira Kazar, which also is an amazing coincidence I'll tell you about right after, but she the whole time by being so like single-minded about the grief anniversary and the tragedies that are going on. It's actually hilarious. This very dark comedy there. And she can be surrounded by a couple making out and she's thinking about like, what are we doing for the grief anniversary? They really got that just be true to life, and that's what will be funny. And their dynamic was incredible because they also made room for the complexity of characters who love each other, but that doesn't mean that they're like holding hands and skipping into the sunset all the time. And it also doesn't mean that, they're bickering. Like actually, I developed this film at the Torino Film Lab, the comedy lab, and we had comedians like improvise scenarios about our projects. I remember like everyone's kind of first instinct is to bicker. They're like, oh, mother-daughter bicker. And I was like, no, it's not funny. Like, that's not what makes me laugh, actually. What makes me laugh are these human moments of the daughter's asked her mom, like, let's not talk about anything controversial or political when we get in the car with the tour guide. And then instantly, that is exactly what the mom is talking about, and the daughter can't do anything about it. And we, the audience, are laughing while the mom's talking about very dark things happening in the world. And that's dark comedy to me, and that's hilarious because we're not laughing at the tragedies, we're laughing at the human behavior
Yeah.
that we can all connect to. But yeah, actually about the actress coincidence. So when I was casting, and I was thinking like, how am I going to find actors who can hold humor and emotion in such a naturalistic way and be so good and also have all these specificities of the characters because I wanted them to be authentic and like come from the same places. And while I was like thinking this is going to be impossible, I was watching Call Me by Your Name and for a cinematography reference.
Hmm.
And the actress who plays Timothy Chalamet's mom in Call Me by Your Name is Amira Kazar and ended up being the mom in Honeyjoon. So these kind of like magic
Wow.
coincidences would happen.
Just want to remind our listeners, we're speaking with the director, screenwriter, and producer of a wonderful film called Honeyjoon, and that would be Lillian T. Mehrel. And by the way, the reception you mentioned, people coming up to you at different events and screenings and all this. This has won a bunch of awards, including an award at Tribeca, San Francisco Film Festival, just all over the country and also around the world. This film has been screened, and congratulations on the reception that you've received.
Thank you. It's really incredible because we actually won the biggest film production prize in the world, the Tribeca AT&T Untold Stories Award. It was a dream come true, to be able to make the film in the Azores and all of that. But I didn't know how audiences were gonna go nuts for the film. Basically, like we premiered at Tribeca, and since then I've screened it like 40 plus festivals. And we've won like countless, like multiple audience awards and jury awards. And it gave me fire to believe in this film because right now, in this current landscape, people think like people don't come to the theaters anymore and like indie films don't get theatrical so often. And I just refused to accept not playing this movie in theaters. I believed in it because the audience showed me. And I was like, no, we need to play this movie in theaters and people are going to have an experience together. And because of the audience, I just kept going until now we are going to open in theaters June 10th. And I feel like it's like this, it's almost like between me and the audience, like this beautiful celebration that we got here.
Now, I think where did I see you have a Los Angeles
That's
opening?
right. We're opening in New York at the IFC Center June 10th, then LA June 12th through June, then Chicago, Toronto, and more to come.
I'm going to pull us off the beaten path for a minute
Sure.
because I've been around long enough to have watched a lot of films going back to the 70s. And
Wow.
this reminds me of the 70s, a few comedies of the 70s. And one, I'm not sure it's a perfect fit, but tonally it feels like it is. And that is Harold and Maude.
What an honor to be connected to these classics.
Now, I don't know if you've seen Harold and Maude. Have you ever seen it?
Time ago.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring that up is because the absurdity of what the character is doing. He's trying to, and for people, if you haven't seen Harold and Maude, you should. It's a great, wonderful film. He's trying to kill himself, and his mother is completely oblivious to what he's doing. And so there's this absurdity of that part of the film. And then he finds a version of love for himself, who she embraces him for who he is. And so again, it's not a perfect fit, but in terms of the tone of the film, it's similar. And I don't know how exactly more that I can do to describe it, but it just feels that way.
That means a lot to me. And I think the fact that this is like an enduring classic, it gives me excitement and hope because, these themes are universal and they're evergreen. Like we always want to connect to the dark and the light, and we're grappling with that in life forever. We always are talking about relationships with those we love forever. And like I'm honored that you made that reference. And someone once told me at one of the festivals, one of the programmers called Honeyjoon an indie film classic. And right now you gave me that same feeling that like that there are films I love from years ago that I'll rewatch now and still I see new things into them depending on what I've experienced in life. I actually noticed that after I lost, my parent, I started noticing in films that I hadn't realized were also about grief in so many ways. You start seeing it everywhere and you see new things. And I think films that stay with us, that say something to us,
Yeah.
that we don't forget, they linger with us, they become part of us and they shape the ways we see things. They might change our behavior. People might go flirt more because of Honeyjoon. They might call their mom because of Honeyjoon. They might, it's like, who knows? I think it's so beautiful to become part of this fabric of cinema that stays with people, that
Yeah.
changes as they watch it. People have come, one of the craziest phenomenons is people will come watch the film multiple times and people will say that they see different things into it every time. But I think that happens even more when you see a film like 5 years later and you're a different person than you were when you
Yeah.
first saw it,
Yeah.
I bet if you watch Harold and Maude today, you see new things into it than when you first saw it.
I've left out of the conversation one of the kind of the free radical in the film, which is Jose Contessa, who
Wendell.
plays Joel, the tour guide, who
Wow.
is the kind of the free radical, and he's the one who kind of shakes things up. And there's another kind of a smaller role. The guy at the front desk is hilarious.
The caramels guy. Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I realized because of him, I'm like, I need to have caramels at every screening. I should have him handing them out, but he's in Portugal. But no, he's hilarious, and it kind of there's a flirty element that he's bringing, and I think flirting is actually thematically so Honeyjoon. Flirt, like what's more alive than flirting?
yeah,
It's trying. It's an attempt. It's that glimmer of hope that despite everything, there may still be love or connection. It's
yeah.
so alive. And I feel like actually I was so inspired by like IndieWire quoted us as saying, after you see this movie, please go flirt with someone. Honeydew, like it's actually a great date movie because it brings up these, you laugh and you're encouraged to flirt, but it brings up deeper conversations about life and loss and sharing a hotel room with your mom.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for Honey June and all the very best. And here in Los Angeles at the
At Lemley.
greatest of all of the independent film chains that I know of, the Lemleys. It's
Yes, and it'll be Lemley Royale June 12th, Lemley Town Center June 19th,
19th.
and Lemley Glendale June 26th.
And from there, Honey June goes to Chicago at the Gene Siskel Film Center. Not only has it been well received in its festival run, but it's getting to some of the most iconic theaters in its theatrical run. Congratulations on all of this. I couldn't be happier for you. I look forward to more. Lilian T. Mehrel, thank you so very much for your time here on Cinemaphile.
Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Keep flirting.
Okay, you too.